Hi, Thrivers. There's something I want to share with you today that most people don't find out until they're already deep into the process. Just because your divorce settlement looks fair on paper does not mean it's actually going to work in real life. And I say that with so much care because I see this happen all the time. Couples sit down, they're trying to do the right thing, they divide everything up, they come up with an agreement, and everyone walks away thinking, okay, we figured it out. And then a few months later, things start to fall apart. And it's not because anyone made a bad decision, it's because no one showed them how those decisions play out in the real world, especially when it comes to the house. I'm Tami Wollensak, a divorce mortgage specialist with over 30 years experience, and I'm here to help you make smart home decisions while you're navigating your divorce. I'm so glad you're here. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like. Let's say one person's keeping the home. On paper, it makes sense. They're receiving support. They've been in the home for years. Maybe they want stability for the kids. And emotionally, it feels like they've made the right decision. So the agreement says they keep the house, they refinance within 6 to 12 months, they buy out the other spouse's equity. Clean, simple, fair, right? But here's where things start to shift. When they go to qualify for that new refinance, the lender is not looking at the agreement the same way. They're looking at how long has the income been received? Is it likely to continue for at least 3 more years? How is this structured? Has it been documented correctly? And then suddenly the support income that worked in the agreement doesn't fully work for the mortgage. Now let's layer in timing, because this is where I see a lot of people get stuck. Your agreement might say you have 6 months to refinance, but what if the income hasn't been received long enough yet? Assets haven't been distributed. Credit needs to be adjusted post-divorce. Now the clock's ticking and the plan doesn't line up with the reality. A timeline in a divorce agreement does not guarantee mortgage readiness. And here's another scenario I see often. Let's talk about the equity buyout. On paper, one spouse keeps the home and pays the other their share of the equity. Sounds pretty straightforward, but how is that equity being paid? Is it coming from cash, being pulled through the refinance, tied to a retirement account? Because each one of those has completely different implications for qualifying. And if that's not thought through ahead of time, you can end up in a situation where you're supposed to pay someone out, but you don't actually have a way to access the funds. This is the part that's really hard to talk about, but really important. I've had conversations with people who truly believed they were keeping their home, only to find out later that they couldn't. Not because they did anything wrong, but because no one walked them through the full picture. And I wanted to pause here for just a second, because if you're listening to this and starting to feel a little anxious, that's not the goal. The goal is awareness, because when you understand this early, everything can change. There's really a big gap that happens, a gap in this process, a real one, between what gets decided in a divorce and what actually works when it comes to financing that decision. And this is exactly why I created something I call the rooted method, because what people need in this moment isn't more options, is not more opinions, it's clarity. In a rooted session, what we're going to do is take a step back and look at the full picture. Your income, your assets, your credit, your potential settlement structure, and then mapping that to what's actually possible. Not just can you keep the house, but what would it take to keep it? When would that realistically happen? What needs to be structured differently now? And what are your backup options if things don't go exactly as planned? Because there's nothing worse than feeling like you made a decision and then realizing later that you didn't have all the information. And I've been on the other side of this, not just professionally, but personally. I know what it feels like to be in that space where everything is uncertain and you're trying to make the best decision you can with what you know. That's why this matters so much to me. So if you're thinking about divorce in the middle of negotiations or trying to figure out what to do with the house, I want you to just slow this part down. Just enough to ask not just what feels fair, but what actually works, because those two things need to align. That's when you create a foundation you can actually move forward from. If you want help walking through that, I do a 60-minute rooted method clarity session. It's simple, a space for us to look at your situation and map out your real options. No pressure, just clarity. The link is going to be below if you need it. And if this video gave you even one moment of pause or helped you see something differently, share it with someone who might need it, because this is the kind of information that can change the entire outcome just by hearing it early enough. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.